Welcome to Jablam Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Wajaranov. You can find me on Twitter at Russian98, and I'm with
Connor Roundtree. You can find me on Twitter at SportsWithTree.
And of course, you can find both of us at Jablam Hockey on Twitter as well.
Well, Peter, we got one heck of an episode for the fans here tonight with our Christmas special, if you couldn't tell from my special Christmas jacket. We start everything off with a team ISO on the Edmonton Oilers. We give you a little World Junior preview. We have an exclusive interview with one of Team Canada's forwards going to the Spangler Cup, Dylan Sikura. And we got a little Blackhawk talk with me. And then topped it all off with a nice bow on Saturday's picks.
But first, trending now. All right, before we get right into trending now, I want to talk a little bit about what I saw in front of work at Yonge and Dundas. There's a whole little NHL 100 event, obviously going on in the city with the Next Century game in Toronto as well, and of course in Ottawa. We'll talk about that in a bit. But they had everything. They had Tim Hortons. They had all these cool trucks out there. And they were all, you could see the pictures of guys like Johnny Bower and Sidney Crosby. And then, of course, there was also a little mini rink where they had, the plastic stuff.
Yeah, synthetic ice.
Cool.
Yeah. Good for training.
Yeah. So they had a lot of, probably not, I don't know if Timbits, I would say, but a lot of Little League hockey players.
Minor hockey
players playing on the surface. So it was pretty cool to see that as well. And then, of course, in another little section, they had a place where athletes would do signings. And there was very little lines. Obviously, I didn't even hear about it, and I would work right there for the same company. And Solomon was there, signing autographs. I even took a picture. I tweeted it. You can check it out.
Yeah, no, that's a good Swedish defenseman. Guy that can score a lot of goals. Leafs could use a guy like him right now.
Yeah, they could, but they might have a Swedish defenseman that we'll be talking about later in the World Juniors that should be showing up for them within a year or two.
Make sure you stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and of course, all this will be on our game notes on our episode page on JablamHockey.com. So it was an eventful weekend. In Ottawa, they played their NHL 100 Classic game. Habs at Ottawa, and Ottawa won fairly easily. I think Ottawa's really struggling right now. And
no kidding.
Both on and off the ice.
Yes. So it was good for them to win. I'm happy. I actually have Anderson. Almost traded him in fantasy hockey, and that would have made me happier. But good for them. They won 3-0. It's been rough sledding.
From the ownership all the way down to the quality of ice on the ice, actually, too.
Yeah, everybody's been hearing about hashtag Melnick out. Our blogger, Shawn, wrote a blog about that. You can check that out. We even have a few on game notes. But a few quotes, specifically Melnick was heard saying, "If it becomes a disaster, yes, in terms of moving the Senators. If you start not seeing crowds showing up, yes. But for now, we are on the cusp of doing okay. Here we are fighting every day to sell a ticket, honest to God. When you get to the third round of the playoffs and you're begging people to buy a ticket, something's wrong with that picture."
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he went on and said some good stuff too, but when your owner comes out and says
that's a yeah, no, yeah moment where you go, yeah, no, that's bad, but yeah, it's definitely bad.
Yeah, and it's weird because they were also talking about the options of having the arena downtown, and he kind of said yeah, that's another option. Well, isn't that a good option?
I'd say it's a great option in a smaller market because you got to draw everyone into the games. And in Ottawa, they are a smaller market. It's not like Toronto. Personally, in Toronto, I wouldn't mind if the Air Canada Centre was 20 minutes out of town. So traffic every night in the city isn't terrible, or at least 41 nights of the year.
Yeah, I've said time and time again, I've been to Florida, I've been to Phoenix. I don't know why these arenas are 40 minutes away from downtown, especially in the smaller markets. In Toronto, it would work easily. We could easily have a second team, I think, by Woodbine Racetrack. But it's close to the airport as well. But it boggles my mind why they decide to make these arenas, especially in smaller markets, 40 minutes from downtown.
Well, maybe smaller market, less money in the team, cheaper land. There's a bunch of little factors that comes into ownership, but you got to look at the long haul here, and now Melnyk is paying for it. He's legitimately paying for it, and I'm all on board. Just by the way, everyone, hashtag Melnyk out. I don't like Melnyk. I'm not a fan. I don't like how he gets involved with his players. He's like the Jerry Jones of the NFL. If he just stayed quiet, I think the on-ice production of the Senators would be better. I think he should stay out of the affairs that the management team should be taking care of, not the ownership. That's my opinion on Melnyk. I don't like him at all.
I think he's been silent for some of those years, though. So it hasn't been. Again, it's his right to be vocal, especially right now. Especially at this moment when they didn't come out during the playoffs and they're still lacking right now. And again, when the team's not playing well, you have to expect that as well.
Yes.
But there's the issue. Deal with these issues during the offseason. Now he's drawing a bigger circle, a bigger crowd in with a tighter focal point. And it's not good for the team because now they're struggling and it's on the player's mind. Well, if this team's moving, where am I moving? Mm-hmm. And Eric, where's our captain going to go?
Yeah, well, he did mention as well that maybe they have to lower their cap spending, like in terms of the salaries there. And if they are a smaller market and they won't hit the big numbers in terms of selling out the games, they do have to lower their cap hit, that's for sure.
Yep.
Even Don Cherry, and I know a lot of people are getting sour more on Don Cherry as he's getting older. He also was heard saying, if people don't show up and pack the place all the time, you can't survive with 13,000. He's gone. Ottawa's gone for sure. Don't know where, but Quebec would be nice. That's Don Cherry's quote. So
yeah, Don Cherry, and I believe there was another one. If you can't sell out in the playoffs, what can you sell? You said that the other night on Hockey Night in Canada.
Yep.
I think he's, in this perspective, I think John Cherry's hit the nail on the head. It would be unfortunate to lose a Canadian franchise on a move, so it would be nice if they were to move to Quebec. But hopefully Ottawa, for the sake of her fans, really the city, hopefully they can figure out their issues and maybe just change the ownership. I don't know, but who knows? What else we got, Peter?
Great news. In the other NHL 100 type game, the next century game, the first game of the next century of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, also, it's basically the NHL 100 century. It was pretty cool to see the Maple Leafs play an early game. I wish they had a stat that said the last time, at least the Maple Leaf or many of these hockey games, I guess maybe some American teams have played during the day on a weekday. I'm not too sure.
Well, maybe come playoffs. Because maybe can playoffs
play a
in the
little
small,
bit earlier.
and a little bit earlier in the smaller markets. Try to bump it up like they do with the Raptors in the Toronto and the NBA.
Yeah.
Try to get them up higher.
I can't recall the last time
On a Tuesday.
During the week, an early game.
I couldn't make it. I had stuff going on.
So it was cool because they kind of did for the next generation. So you saw a lot of kiddies at the game, and that was pretty cool. A thing I didn't find was pretty cool was, why are they playing Carolina?
There it is.
What does Carolina have to do with a century mark? Maybe if you turn the Kane logo, it could make a 0. Maybe cut 2 zeros.
The only thing I kind of understand is it should have been Montreal-Toronto. That was like the first game. That was then, but why not get at least? I get it. Montreal played Ottawa, so they already played a big, important game. It was outdoor. They're not going to play this game. One of the original 6. Why not?
Chicago, Detroit.
Yeah.
Or maybe just even, the Rangers. They're a little south, not that far. Buffalo.
Maybe.
Well, at least it's in the division. Yeah. I would have been fine with Tampa Bay. What, not Carolina?
But what do you think 100 years ago today we'd be thinking, yeah, the best teams in the NHL, they're probably Montreal and Toronto and New York and Chicago.
Well, fun fact, we're talking about all this expansion. The team that won the Cup 100 years ago, this season, boom, the Seattle Metropolitans. Remember, we talked about that. So, if there's a team in Seattle, which I would never even think of now, well, starting to, obviously, with the expansion talks, there's no way back in the day that I'd be like, oh, the Vegas Golden Knights are leading the Pacific Division.
The best two teams are Tampa Bay Lightning and the Vegas Golden Knights. Those guys are rolling in their graves right now. They'd be like, what? How is this possible?
Yeah, well, guess small market Vegas put their arena right on the strip, right downtown, like we were talking about 2 minutes ago, and they're selling out. So they've done something right.
I hope they do that with Seattle too, because I think they're talking about not having it completely downtown. So that would bother me again.
It would be nice if they could, with the Seattle team, getting a little off topic here, but it would be nice if they could put it all in the same area, right beside, what's it called? Safeco Field, I believe? No, it's not. Where the Seahawks play.
I'm not a big NFL fan.
We'll get that. We'll get that for you on the next one.
But I think Key Arena isn't completely downtown.
No, it's not. So, and that's where they were looking, and that's where they got the permission to do the big remodeling, the big dollars, the $400 million.
So, well, I don't mind them going there, but at least if plan for a newer, better arena, maybe more downtown, at least within 7-8 years.
Yeah.
All right. The cool thing, which I thought was, and of course it's on our game notes, go check it out. I've already tweeted it, was the amazing highlight reel goal by Adam Henrique.
Yeah.
Wow. So he gets traded for Vatanen from the Devils to the Ducks, and then he scores a highlight reel goal over Vatanen, the guy he was traded for.
Legitimately went over his head. But, like, legit. He flicked the puck over his head, went in, and made Corey Schneider look foolish.
That was a good. Not only was the move around Vatanen amazing,
the finish.
The finish around
Schneider
was good.
I feel you've been practicing with a goalie for, now Schneider's been there for a couple of years at least, 3-4 years. Henrique's been in New Jersey for almost a decade. Yeah. So you feel like you might know where to go on Corey Schneider, and that move worked.
Perfectly.
Good for him.
And then before we go, we're going to also tweet, and I wanted to mention the amazing brawl that happened in Austria.
This is something.
So the player goes, I'm not too sure if it's intermission or post-game, but he's going for his live hit interview after the game, and then the other player starts actually attacking him.
Yeah,
they start brawling right when he's supposed to be doing an interview.
The reporter must have been quite scared because that guy came out of nowhere and just bashed the other guy.
Yeah.
And the thing, I can't enunciate these players' names, unfortunately.
Well, it was Chris D'Souza of HC Bolzano and Tom Zanowski of Medvesac Zagreb. I could say that because...
See, I meant to say the team names. I meant to say I can enunciate the team names. Player names are quite easy, but I'm not saying either of those.
Yeah, then they're from the Austrian league.
Yeah, make sure you check that out because there are some heavy hits thrown, and it's just it's funny. At this point, it happened a couple days ago. Something's got to be done so these teams don't walk out beside each other. It's kind of ridiculous, but
yeah. What do you think about that Don Cherry thing where he says that he hates that both benches are on the one side and the penalty box is right next to each other on the other side. So he hates it when both players come out, especially after a fight or something, or player balls right in front because they're right beside each other.
I think it adds a different level to the game because it adds that extra step in the second period where you get the long change and it increases goal scoring. So I understand why the league does it from that perspective, but for player safety and for brawling, it's pretty obvious that would be better if the benches were across the field or across the ice. Pardon me.
The main reason they do it is TV reasons why. You want to see the whole team there. You don't really need to see the penalty box or the scoring guy on the other side.
So all the money, the league wants goals, and the people paying the league to view it. So, yeah, no, that's not going to change anytime soon.
No. All right, it's it's time for some Team ISO, and of course you all know it's when we specifically talk about one team, but we get a better perspective than ours. We go into the blogospheres and people who know the team a lot better. This week we are Team ISOing the Edmonton Oilers with special guest Alex Thomas. You can find Alex on Twitter at Alex_Thomas14. Right, Alex?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Perfect. And he's, of course, a blogger at theoilersrig.com. What else do you do, Alex? You're all over the place.
Yeah. So I've been at started the Oilers Rig about 5 years ago now, and I've been going pretty strong since then. I do some work for Jimmy Murphy as well out here in Boston. Murphy's Hockey Law. I do a little bit of writing there, covering the Pacific Division as a whole. And I do some junior hockey out in the Boston area as well. So I'm kind of all over the place, especially this time of year. I'd call it my busy season.
Nice. So what made you want to follow the Oilers?
You know, it's funny. My dad was a Whalers guy. So when they moved, I was maybe 2.5, 3 years old. So, didn't really grasp the situation, didn't really have a team. And we were at a Bruins-Oilers game in 2001, it might have been, or 2002, and they wore the Gear 3rd jerseys on the road, and I kind of, young kid, fell in love with the jerseys, and ever since then, been a huge Oilers fan.
Cool. All right, let's get right into it. So the Oilers are sitting way back at the bottom, I think second last in the conference. In the last 10, they're still not getting out of that rut. People are even talking about, all in for Dahlin. So that's not a good thing, I guess, in the Oilers community right now. What are the two things that you would put more on the downfall outside of everybody harping on McDavid, who is still in the top 10 in the league in points? I think he's like
It's an Edmonton fan thing. They just boo their first-round picks.
Yeah.
First overall picks, I should say.
Yeah, first overall picks. Shirley loves those guys. You would know in Boston as well. But... So the Oilers, of course, they traded Hall and then Eberle in the offseason. And these other wingers, I guess they thought they would maybe step up. Like, Connor, you're going to talk about Yamamoto a bit. There's Slepyshev. Jokinen was traded for Camilleri. Strome again. Yeah, there's Eberle, who has, I think, over 12 now. And Strome, who finally has his 5th.
Big goal, though, 10,000th for the Oilers. So good for Shawn. Make those 5 goals count, buddy.
I'm hinting at, is the wingers one of the big reasons why they're not doing so well?
I think so. I mean, especially early in the year, this team couldn't score, which is kind of miraculous. They just couldn't put the puck in the net. They've been a lot better, I think, lately. They've won 7 out of their last 11, and you can argue that of the 4 games that they lost, they probably deserved to win the game in Toronto. It happened to run into a hot goaltender, and they ran into a hot goaltender last week. It's not often you can say you were the better team in a 4-0 loss, but they were when they played Nashville. So the play itself has been a lot better lately. But yeah, the wing has been an issue all year. Milan Lucic has been good the last 10, 11 games. But prior to that, he was a non-factor. Ryan Strome had 2 goals against the Sharks, but he's really been a non-factor most of the year. I guess Puljujärvi's come up from Bakersfield and probably saved their wing depth. He's come in and taken the right wing spot on Connor McDavid's line, and he's been really good there. But you look elsewhere, Leon Draisaitl was not producing on the wing the way he did, not even close to the way he did last year. They've shifted him to center. Patrick Maroon has been shifted down to the Nugent-Hopkins line, off the McDavid line now. He has had a bit of a down year compared to last year, but he's still on pace to hit 20 goals, so you can't really get on him. They tried to audition a lot of players on the wing, hoping to save money and then go out and add at the deadline. But the irony is that saving that money on the wing, it was a huge reason why this team struggled out of the gates. They just simply couldn't score. I mean, McDavid was putting pucks on guys, right to guys' sticks with empty nets, and people couldn't finish the play. So the wings was a huge issue, although it has been a lot better the last 10 to 15 games. And it's not a coincidence that the win-losses have started to pick up there, too.
Mm-hmm. And then you go on the back end. Is the back end a big issue? Like, they were playing a fair bit better last year on the back end. Why the big difference now this year?
I don't think the back end's a huge issue. I just think they were hurt. Mm-hmm. Oscar Klefbom's been playing the whole season hurt, and he just got placed on IR. And it sounds like they're resting him to get over the bumps and bruises, but people won't realize that Andrei Sekera has been out since game against Anaheim, he tore his ACL, and he's going to play on Thursday for the first time this season. And that is a huge loss for this team. He's one of their three best defensemen behind Larson and Klefbom. So to not have him was, that was a huge loss for this team. And Chiarelli didn't replace him in the lineup. And it's not a coincidence that this team's defense has played better since the start of December when they claimed Brandon Davidson off waivers. And Davidson, who Montreal couldn't figure out how to use, has come to Edmonton, and he has played about 20 minutes a night. He's played pretty strong. So I don't necessarily think the defense was bad. I think it was banged up. And I think now that they're getting healthy, and you can see the Oilers now, they're playing much stronger defensively. And I do think that is going to lead to a bit of a hot streak here coming up soon.
Nice. All right, then let's go in between the pipes. Cam Talbot's injured. What's the update with that?
Oh, Cam's played. He had a bit of a lower body. It sounds like what they were saying. He tweaked it. It looked like against Detroit the night before American Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. He ended up winning that game. Didn't play 2 days later in Buffalo. Played in Boston that Sunday. They played really well. They won. Stole the game the next 2 nights later against Arizona. Then he went on the injured reserve. And there was some talk that it could happen that he could be on IR until after Christmas. They got him back Saturday. He looked good the last two.
Nice.
I think his struggles early in the season were mental as much as they were physically. He gave up a couple of tough goals in the second game of the year against Vancouver and in Game 3 against Winnipeg. He never really was able to get settled back in. He takes about 2.5 weeks off, and he was the difference late in that game against Minnesota on Saturday at win. And he played really well Monday against San Jose. So it's no coincidence that he's come back, played well, and the Oilers have won both games that he's played. It's just so important. I mean, McDavid won MVP last year, but I really do think that Talbot was a close team MVP last year. He was really good for this team. They didn't have that from him at all so far this year, but to get that the long game has been huge. And I do think, again, we talk about the defense, but if this team's going to take a step forward, it's going to have to be Talbot playing well. He's played really well in his first 2 games back from injury.
Yeah, he probably should have been nominated last year. All right, Connor?
Well, we just talked about him earlier. Yamamoto makes the team out of camp, so shocks everybody. Plays 9 games, scores 3 points. He's back in junior now, just around a point per game. Last year he had 99 points. When do you think this kid is going to burst out and be a full-time Oiler?
It's funny. I thought we would get the 9 games next year and then see him as a full-time Oiler in the fall of 2019. But he earned it in World Junior Summer Camp. He was arguably Team USA's best player. I thought he was the Oilers' best player in training camp and preseason this year. He got 3 assists in those 9 games that he played, and he played on the McDavid line for a portion of it, and he didn't look out of place. I know he hasn't gone back to the WH John lit it up with, and he would have hoped. But again, there's a big disappointment there and a bit of a mental thing for a player to make the NHL, be drafted in the first round, make the team out of camp, surprise everybody, and then get sent back down the juniors. Is a bit of a letdown there. I expect he's going to play a huge role on Team USA at the World Juniors, and I think you'll see him kind of break out there and then have a very strong second half of the year in juniors. I think he's going to be a full-time player on this team next year. You have Puljujarvi, who's emerged as a top 6 right winger, but right now the Oilers, Drake Caggiula played second-line right wing the other day. There's a need for a right winger right now on the NHL roster, and I think the long-term plan is Yamamoto, and I think the Oilers believe that he could be ready to go in that spot next fall, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he made the team out of camp and was a full-time NHLer as early as next fall.
Well, that could solve your wing problems there, Peter.
Yeah.
But then shifting to the back end, the guy that has impressed me most out of the Oilers prospects is Ethan Bear. At just 5'10", the kid weighs 205 pounds. He's got 6 points in 10 games this season, and he got 70 points, in 68 games last season. So he's a small guy with a big lower center of gravity that can put up points. When do you think this guy will be rocking the orange and navy permanently?
The Oilers need right shot defensemen, and Ethan Bear's a right shot that can play on the power play, moves the puck. He's got a great shot. Coming into training camp, I thought he was the guy that maybe you would see this season get a cup of coffee at some point. Unfortunately, you mentioned he's only played 10 games in Bakersfield, the AHL this year because he's been battling a concussion issue. And did return to the lineup over the weekend, but he had missed a lot of time. So I think that probably pushes the debut back to sometime next season. But the Oilers moved Mark Fane yesterday, reassigning him to Springfield. So he's still under contract with the Oilers, but playing in the Florida organization now. And they have Dylan Simpson down there in the farm, but other than that, there's really nothing bubbling under. Brian Stanton is a guy that could fill in terms of injury this year, but you look at it, and you've got Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones and Ryan Mantha as 3 young defensemen getting time, and Bear's leading the way down on the farm. And I would not be surprised if you got a cup of coffee next season. And I would think somewhere around the 2019-20, 2021 season is where you would see Ethan Bear become a full-time NHLer. It's tough. Defensemen develop a lot slower, but I think within the next year and a half, 2 years, you should see Ethan Bear make the jump.
All right. Before we leave you, we all know the whole 1/3 rule at that point and what teams can make or may not make the playoffs. What are the chances you think the Oilers could still make the playoffs?
Well, I have them less than 50% right now, which is very disappointing. But if they can survive here these next couple of games, the schedule opens up a little bit for them. January, February, March, and April a little more favorable. The Oilers are at home a lot more. They're not traveling out east all the time. They're not having back-to-backs as much as they have. They play Western and divisional opponents, which, look at the splits. The Oilers are very good against the Pacific Division. They were last year. They're 5-1 against the Pacific this year. They're a team that's built to beat Western Conference teams. They have struggled against the East. They did last year. They have this year. It's pretty much exclusively Western opponents from January on. So if they can get through these next couple of weeks, get within, they're 6 points back now, or 7 points back now, excuse me. If they can get that to, let's say, 4 or 5 points come the new year, I think this team's got a really good chance because everybody in front of them, they play. They still have Vancouver 3 times, Colorado 3 times, Anaheim they have not played yet this season. They've only played San Jose once. They beat them. They've only played Vegas once. They haven't played the Kings yet. All these teams in front of them, they still have to play. So I think the Oilers match up well with those teams. I'll say a 45% chance to get in right now, and that's probably a little bit optimistic. But if they can hang in here and get it to within 4 or 5 points, come the new year, schedule opens up, and I do think they have a chance. You just can't count a McDavid team out.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex, for coming on the show. Of course, we will tweet your Twitter account on ours, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome back to Jablam Hockey, folks. Today we have a special exclusive interview with one of Canada's very own, Mr. Dylan Sikura. He'll be going overseas over the big pond to represent Canada, in the Spangler Cup. Dill, how you doing tonight?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
No worries, buddy. We're honored to have you. Now, you've had quite the season with Northeastern. 22 points, 15 games, battled a little injury trouble. Now you're back. You're heading over the pond in the big 16-team tournament, the Spangler Cup, on the world level. What does it mean to you to don the red and white?
Yeah, obviously it's a privilege. Growing up, it was always a decent hockey player, but never really got given the chance. This is actually really the first time that I've got to throw over the old maple leaf over on the sweater, so it should be cool. And obviously, this is a good first time to do it. Obviously I was playing the Corral Cup, the last one, but obviously couldn't go over there due to injuries. So I'm really looking forward to this experience, and I got one of my teammates also going over with me now. Just found out the other day, so it should be a really cool experience for both of us, and I'm looking forward to it.
Dill, who's your teammate going with you?
Jeremy Davies. He's a sophomore defenseman he's from Montreal, so he's a very good player as well.
Now, obviously, you're very excited, and it must be pretty tough to hold in these emotions. But what are your personal expectations for your play at this tournament? And then how do you see the team doing overall?
Yeah, obviously team-wise, I'm not too familiar with too many of the guys other than just a couple of calls that I've played against over the years. But the roster looks good, and obviously it's whenever Canada brings a team over anywhere, I'm sure they're trying to win, and I think they've won the last 2 years. So I'm sure the team will be competitive again this year. I'm obviously really looking forward to it. I think just talking to a couple of guys, maybe they're lacking a little bit of offensive threat up front, maybe a little bit of goal scoring. So just going over there, I just want to play my game, do my thing, see what I can bring to the table for them, maybe a little bit offensive spark. I know it'll be a little different being the younger guy for once, but hopefully just kind of learn from the older guys there and just play my game.
Now, Dill, you say play your game. For all the fans watching at home, and this is your first time on the world stage, so with all of Canada watching, and maybe, hey, future Blackhawk fans as well, what would you describe your game as, and who would you compare yourself most to in the current NHL?
I think I'm more of an offensive guy. Something I've been kind of focusing on this year in my senior year at school is just being a full 200-foot guy, which is you kind of got to be at the next level. But I think if I were to describe myself, I'd be a playmaking, smaller, skilled offensive guy. Comparison-wise, I guess for the Leafs fans out there, maybe a guy like Mitch Marner, smaller size, but good speed and good vision. So kind of compare myself to a guy like that and kind of try to model my game after him.
Now, you've had a great 2017, obviously an alternative captain at university. You're invited to the pre-Olympic camp. Now you're going to the Spangler Cup. How do you feel this process and this leadership role has changed your game?
Yeah, obviously it's a big part of the player I am today, and obviously I had the tough decision last year whether to leave school or to not leave school, and I think going back only helped me. Obviously now I get the chance to go over to the Spangler and potentially the Olympics if I go over there and play well good enough. But being a leader at school and being an older guy, and kind of teaching the young guys the ropes because we've been there for 4 years. It's been a cool experience, and obviously I'm very happy with the decision I made to go back to school and kind of finish it off. And obviously at school we have a really good team this year. I think we're 8th in the country right now, so I think we have a chance to do big things over there. And I think just maturing as a player and as a person is really going to help me in the future.
Well, Dylan, thank you for the interview. Fans, if you want to know more about Dylan, I actually had a chance to interview him over the summer. We'll throw that up on jablamhockey.com. Dylan, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. All the best.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Good luck out there. All right, let's do a little World Junior Hockey preview. Just a short, quick preview before the tournament starts, and then we'll recap it. I think we're going to take a break during holidays. You got some time off.
Yeah, I got a little bit of time off going to Vegas. Going to check in New Year's Eve. What that's all about. Going to the Leafs game,
The Leafs game. Maybe do a little hit and put it on Twitter for us.
Yeah, well, there we go. We'll get a live hit for you from Las Vegas before the Leafs game. Get you a little storyline that everyone's talking about down there. But it's the most wonderful time of year, Peter. You got a tournament over the seas. We just talked about the Spangler Cup with Dylan Sikura. And then, just a little south, we got the World Junior Hockey, baby.
In Buffalo. So the tournament's kind of weird because a lot of people, their minds are elsewhere with Olympics going on. Mm-hmm. And I think mine is too. Maybe also because it's just been so bombarded with work and busy. And I feel like it's bubbling, like we feel that Canada isn't going to be doing so well.
Well, the thing is, if you look at Canada's group, they're in a pretty tough group. Finland, they, as you're going to probably talk about in a minute, they look really good. The United States has goal scoring out of their hoo-ha. Denmark, okay. And the Slovaks actually could be a bit of a surprise. And all 5 of those teams are in Group A.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough for Canada to get out of their group. It legitimately will be tough to finish in the top 2.
It looks like it should be tough, but when you look up and down on that roster, I'm trying to look at it up right now, but they've got so much depth still.
Well, Sam Steele, he's obviously 35 points in 27 games. To look to him offensively. And what my key player for Canada, especially in a grouping with Finland and the United States and the Slovaks that can all score goals at a torrid pace, it's going to be Carter Hart. We've talked about it on the show before. 13-3-1 this season, 132 goals against, a .961 save percentage. A Canadian goalie hasn't won goaltender of the tournament since Justin Pogge, and I think that this year, if Canada is going to be successful, Carter Hart will end up winning that award.
Yeah, if he plays vintage Carter Hart, I can't see many teams beating them at all. Really?
I mean, we were talking earlier with the Edmonton Oilers. Yamamoto, he's going to be firing for the United States, and they have all the other depth in there. The Slovaks, they got Adam Ruzic from Sarnia, 39 points in 34 games.
Yeah.
And then you go on Finland.
With Finland, I really like their back end. Heiskanen should be there. He's a great Dallas Stars prospect. Ulievi for the Canucks.
Oh, my goodness.
He's great. He should be there. And if they have Emil Rasanen on there as well, those are three big, solid defensemen that Finland have on the back end.
And then the Finns are notorious for having great goaltending. Look, Tuukka Rask, Pekka Rinne, Kari Lehtinen. Well, he was better a couple of years ago, but that's just three guys off the top of my head in the NHL right now. So I would expect Finland to do some damage. So Group A, I think my predictions, I'm going to go Finland, Canada, USA, all really tight, and then Slovakia and Denmark. I think Denmark gets the bottom and they go home right away. I think the Slovaks will be able to squeak in a couple of goals because Group A is, in my opinion, definitely the tougher of the two divisions. How do you have Group A?
They as well, I think. I don't know who is going to be the best.
I think those three teams, Canada, United States, and Finland, they can all switch, and they should be about a point differential. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a tie in the round robin.
For sure.
So it's going to be very interesting. But I think the Finns, as you said, their defensive shutdown strategy, I think that's big at the World Juniors because lots of times it just becomes a goal-scoring fest, and if you can keep the puck out of the net, odds are you're going to have a good.
They have a good goalie prospect named Lassi Lehtinen, but he's a tiny guy. He's, I think, 5'11", say on maybe skates. And today's NHL, there's some behemoths. I think one of the Russian goalies like 6'6" or something.
Oh, the Belarus goalie, 17 years old. I forget his name right now, but we'll definitely post it because this guy is 6'6", 17 years old, and he's beaten out the other two guys who were previously on the team. Pardon me.
Yeah.
And so he gives. If we switch over to Group B now.
Yeah.
He gives Belarus a legitimate shot. They're my surprise team coming out of Group B because I look at Switzerland, I don't see an overpowerful team. Like, they've had some good World Juniors in the past. The Czech Republic, I don't really like them. So I think it comes down Russia, Sweden, and then Belarus. So I think Belarus could get that third seed and make it into the quarterfinal.
They totally can because I feel that some of these teams, Switzerland's always stood up because of some spectacular goaltending that they found.
Yeah.
And
Somehow,
if that happens, then maybe, but I don't know if it's that's the year. Russia as well kind of looks depleted. They don't have the Panarins, the Tarasenkos, Orlov. Did you see that goal? Oh, that was amazing. But they don't have those type of players on this team right now. The biggest prospect they have on the team right now is Klim Kostin, I believe, of the Blues prospect. And he was drafted 31st overall. He's pretty good. He should be pretty good, but he's not a huge standout. Same thing on the back end. Yegor Zaitsev is another pretty good defenseman, but he's not a standout in my opinion.
Yeah, it's crazy when you break this tournament down because when you think about World Juniors, you think about four teams, and when it comes down to the gold medal game, bronze medal game, at least in my mind, Canada, USA, Finland, and Russia, and sometimes Sweden rotates in and out with Finland. But it's usually Russia's usually a powerhouse. The Canadians are usually a powerhouse, and both teams this year, I believe the top Canadian pick is a 10th overall pick.
Yeah.
So it's not the quality of tournament that we saw in Toronto a couple of years ago, obviously because of the lockout when McDavid led Canada to the gold. But this will be a very interesting tournament because of like we mentioned, Belarus. All those guys play together on the U20 Belarus team, so they have that mesh, and then they bring in some talent from the CHL. There's a real possibility, and with the young goaltender that's hot, they could do some damage and possibly make a push in Group B.
Yeah. What is that order that you're looking at, Group B?
Well, Group B, I think my order, I'm going to have to give it to the Swedes on top. I know the Russians aren't too strong, but they're the Russians, and I feel there's a lot of pride that when it comes to Russians playing hockey, especially with everything that's happened with the Olympic Games and them not being able to send the team. So I think these young guys are really going to come out and do well for Russia. So I'll take them at 2. And then I'm going to take the upset Belarus over both the Czechs and the Swiss.
Yeah.
And then I have that. Actually, I'll go Switzerland and then the Czech Republic. I don't think the Czechs have a team this year that can honestly get out of the group.
I still feel Canada has a very, very good team, and they should go all the way to the gold medal match, at least, in my opinion.
Yeah, so
I like them there. And then on the other side, I don't know. I really like Finland, and I still think they could maybe pull an upset somehow.
Well, if they both finish 1-2, they'll
Yeah.
cross over, then they'd meet each other later on.
Yeah.
So it could be possible.
And then in Group B, I'm thinking Sweden could go the furthest for them, and hopefully Timothy Liljegren does really well for the Maple Leafs.
Well, that was World Junior, and it's time to shift to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Peter had this great idea last week that you found on Twitter, I
Yep.
believe, and it's basically your all current player team. I don't really all active. Yeah, I guess you call it your all active squad.
Yes, of the team, it doesn't matter if they're currently playing for them or they've been traded, but they're still currently playing somewhere in the NHL. And I think it was tweeted by Habs Laugh. So he gave us the idea.
No.
So what do you have for the Blackhawks?
So I did the Blackhawks. Last week, Peter did players when they were playing in their prime. I did a current roster, so guys that are still playing in the league and that are still pumping out some pretty good numbers. My first line, well, it's pretty simple. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane. And who has played better with Patrick Kane over the last couple of years than Mr. Columbus Blue Jacket now, Artemi Panarin. So that's my starting lineup. And then we go with a little bit of depth here. And I like Brendan Saad. I like Anisimov. I like the way he's been playing since he got to Chicago. Good two-way hockey. And then bring back Shaw. I like Shaw, that nice grinding winger. Third line. Remember, Kevin Hayes, drafted by the Blackhawks. So he did belong to the organization, but signed with the Rangers. So he would be my third-line center. Brother Jimmy Hayes played a couple games for the Hawks a few years back. And then we got Patrick Sharp on that wing. Now, everyone's asking, where's Marian Hossa? Hossa, we don't really know if he's in. So he's got an asterisk by him. If you want to see the fourth line, well, you're going to have to go to jablamhockey.com. Defense. This was fun because Heath and Seabrook are obviously a shoo-in. And then you actually have great talents that's been dispersed through the league. Obviously, Dustin Byfuglien, I have him on defense. When he was a Blackhawk, he was playing forward, but right now he gets points playing defense using his massive frame. Nick Leddy is a stud. Peter made sure that I was reminded to put Nick Leddy on there. And then to round it all off, I like Nick Jollerson and Trevor Van Riemsdyk.
Would you put Andrew Ladd maybe in that lineup, or
because with the way they're playing right now, I'll spoil my fourth line. I like Brandon Peary on the left wing a lot more than I'm liking the way that Andrew Ladd has been playing this year. So I actually put Peary on that left wing.
I think it's mostly because you picked guys the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I did a current roster. If we were to go their 10 years in Chicago, then I would have had Sharp higher up on the list. I probably would have moved Panarin down because he spent so little time there. And there'd definitely be other goaltenders on the list too, because right now I got Corey Crawford, and I like Forsberg more than I like Darling or Rantner.
Darling is not looking good so far.
Yeah, Darling didn't make my team, just so everyone knows. But yeah, there is your look at the Chicago Blackhawk team. If they could bring back all their players from around the league the way they're playing right now, I think that's the team that you got to go with. And then my centerman, for that fourth line, I got Deneau and Vermette going in and out, and then Frolik as that last right winger. And then, as I said earlier, Hossa has the asterisk beside his name because we don't know if he's active or not. Like, he's not active, but he's still a part of the organization, so it's a toss-up.
All right, let's do our game of the week. We've had a very big episode. Connor, what game are you looking forward to this Saturday?
One solid game. We talked about it earlier. Why didn't the Leafs play an original 6 matchup on the 100th anniversary? Well, guess what? They're doing it Saturday night. Heading into the Big Apple. Tough place to go, though, this year. The Rangers are 14-5-3 on home ice. So I'm going to have to go with the Rangers in this one, but I think it's going to be a great game. The Rangers have won 3 straight, so they're looking real good, and I like the way Henrik Lundqvist has kind of rejuvenated the second half of the season, so I got to take the Rangers, but in a tight one.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really close. I think it'll be an OT game. That's
OT?
OT. Game I'd like to talk about is Red Wings versus the Bruins, but I won't. But do please catch those American weekend day games. I always find that They are so exciting. They're always close. They're always tight, feisty. Those are even the Leaf game again during the day. Man, if the Leafs could play like that every day, that'd be amazing. I would like to see more day games for them too. But the game that you have to talk about, and we've already mentioned them before, the Capitals are fire going into Vegas.
Tough place to go win.
Yeah,
Real
Vegas.
tough.
I think they're like 14-2 right now at home. Insane. The Capitals, I believe, in the last 10 are 8-2. Again, they're going on another streak. I think currently 4 straight wins.
Orlov's goal last night. Orlov's goal last night sums up the Capitals' last 10 games. Kind of makes a mistake, recovers, burns everybody, and finishes nicely. And he can't even believe the finish on that. So, yeah, that's going to be a tight one. But I told you before, Peter, before you did this, I'm not going against the Vegas Golden Knights on home ice. Because those guys, they defend the kingdom.
I want to know how much of house money are they playing with right now?
It's got to be ridiculous.
And how many times are people going to Vegas and losing? They're coming out empty. So many fans of other teams. Tampa Bay. I saw a lot of Tampa Bay fans in that game.
Why wouldn't you?
They're going to see their team in Vegas, and they're coming out empty.
Yeah, no, it's could you imagine how much if you put like a couple bucks on every single one of Vegas's games thus far this season?
Yeah.
Because they've been an underdog. I'd say in almost every game on paper going into the season, and now all the sports lines in Vegas are starting to catch a clue that this team's got a little bit of a momentum. And with Marc-Andre Fleury back in the net, he's 5-1-1 on the year. I don't think that the Capitals are going to be able to solve that problem because he kept them pretty stifled when he was a Pittsburgh Penguin.
Yeah, so I'm also going Golden Knights now. And all in. Just all in.
I like it.
Yeah.
That should be. If that's not their slogan, it should be Slogo. Logo mixed with a slogan. Slogo.
All right. We're going to take some time off because we all want to have a good time during the holidays.
It's Christmas. Lucky for you, this is the last ugly Christmas sweater jacket kind of thing I've worn. I've done a vest, a sweater. Can't really call them ugly Christmas sweaters with me.
Yeah,
so I've worn a vest, I've worn a jacket.
This is not ugly, actually. This one, actually.
Kinda
It's a
cool.
blazer and it looks good.
It's got polar bears and Christmas trees and penguins. Kind of everything that you need to make a good Christmas kids movie. So keep that in mind.
All right. Again, Merry Christmas, everybody. And
Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, joyous Kwanzaa. I don't really know any other ones, but yeah, happy.
yes. And we will see you in a week or so. Check you out. Have good holidays, guys.